The Sarasota Hispanic Caucus would like to introduce Nikki Fried. She's the only Democrat to win statewide in Florida since 2012. She has served as Commissioner of Agriculture and Consumer Services since 2018. And before taking office, Nikki spent her career as a public defender fighting for justice and giving a voice to the voiceless. A longtime advocate for criminal justice reform and marijuana legalization, Nikki saw the devastating impact of injustice within our criminal justice system. As an attorney, she defended homeowners and stood up to the big banks during the foreclosure crisis, helped secure resources for children in the foster care system, and advocated for medical marijuana. As the only Democrat in Florida's cabinet, Nikki has been our voice in Tallahassee, standing up for our rights, our safety, and our democracy. She kicked the NRA out of weapons license, permitting legalized hemp for farmers, defended voting rights, and protected our environment. Now, after 2 decades of Republican leadership in Tallahassee, Nikki is running for governor to build a state that gives power back to us.
Thank you so much, Jackie. And thank you to the Sarasota Hispanic Caucus for having me here tonight. I don't know if any of you are going to Leadership Blue this weekend, but if so, I will see you in Tampa. But really, truly, it's an honor to be with you here tonight. And, I don't need to go through what's on the line here in this election, because we all know it. You all have been seeing it. You've been experiencing it. You see that we currently have a governor who has spent the last 3.5 years dividing our state, instilling hate and fear, making sure that people feel marginalized, telling you that if you don't agree with him, then you might as well see the back door, going after women's reproductive health care. Everything he's doing is not who we are as Americans, who we are as Floridians. He's created now 2 Floridas where the top 1% are doing just great. Everybody else, though, is hurting. I hear those stories all across our state where people can't afford their rent, people can't afford their property insurance and property taxes and their food and their gas. We have our senior population that has been hurt the most from the pandemic, and there's no relief. He's got to go. He has got to go to defend our democracy, to defend the people that have been living here in our state, to defend the people that are coming into our state. I know, and I've talked to so many of our members of our Hispanic community, whether you are first generation or second generation or third generation in our state, and he just wants to use the Hispanic community for votes and to stand on their backs in order to get reelected and then run for president. That is not what leadership looks like. That is not what public service means or looks like. And I have been serving our state since literally I was a kid. When I was growing up in Miami, my mom is a diehard Democrat, was a teacher for 25 years. My dad, though, he's a diehard Republican, but we don't judge. We do a lot of praying for him. But I really was taught in the household, and I come from the Jewish faith, that it's called tikkun olam, to heal the world. And so every day I wake up and try to do good, whether it was down in Miami doing soup kitchens and Habitat for Humanity and community service activities, to my time at the University of Florida when I was student body president, having the most diverse cabinet that has ever happened in University of Florida's history, to fighting for people during when I was a public defender, to homeowners during the foreclosure crisis, to fighting for our foster care children when I was doing government consulting, to now as your commissioner. When I launched this campaign, we did what we started off calling Nikki Escucha Tour. And so we traveled the whole state, meeting with different demographics in the Hispanic community, because we also know that the Democratic Party doesn't do this right. They lump everybody together and they say the Hispanic vote, the Hispanic community, and not recognizing that there is a difference. The Puerto Rican community and the Venezuelan and Colombian and everybody where it comes from different places and has different cultures. Sometimes I know I used to, and I probably shouldn't say this always out loud, but I dated a Puerto Rican for 8 years. The dialect and the culture is different. I get it. But to understand the cultures and to understand why people either came to the mainland or left their countries, what was the persuading, what got them here, and making sure that once they come here, that we're giving them that American dream. And unfortunately, right now in the state of Florida, that American dream is slipping through people's hands. So as the one who's been able to win our state, the only one who's been able to win since Barack Obama in 2012, and you've seen me fight. You've seen me in the trenches against DeSantis for 3.5 years, that I have been our standard bearer, taking him on every single day. And during the pandemic, when he was giving misinformation, lying to people, giving false scientific reports, having a Surgeon General who doesn't understand what medicine is, and giving, again, information that's just hurting people, I stood up. I was there every day, making sure that we are talking to our local governments, making sure that I was protecting our teachers and protecting our children, making sure that our children were fed during the pandemic, making sure that we are giving information out to the public so they can make the right calls for themselves and to their family members. This all is about leadership, making sure that we've got somebody in Tallahassee who is going to fight. Because at the end of the day, that's what we as Democrats need right now. Not only a proven winner, but also somebody who knows how to fight for what we believe in. And that's why my voice, I keep coughing because I have lost my voice and I keep trying to get it and it comes back, because I am out there talking to people every day, walking in those marches, going into those protests, because it is that important that we are showing up, that we are giving hope to the next generation, that there are going to be Democrats that are going to fight for them and are going to stand up for them. And so we have been out there all over the state of Florida, being that standard bearer, being that fierce fighter. And I don't back down. I welcome challenges. I am the only person who gets under Ron DeSantis' skin in the entire country. I go into a cabinet meeting when he has them, and you can see that there's a body gesture that changes when I actually start to talk. When we've had press conferences, you can see that he stands behind me, clenching his fists because he doesn't know what to do with me. That is how we're going to win November. The momentum, the excitement that we get winning this primary is going to catapult us not only across the state of Florida, but the entire country. And the cavalry are going to come into our state. And they're going to say, who is this girl and where did she come from? And that excitement is going to be what's going to make the difference come November. Everybody knows who Ron DeSantis is at this point. There's no new information out there. I don't care how he repackages the commercials. There's no new information. We will excite the base. We will be able to talk to independents, and we're going to talk to conservative Republicans because they just want their party back. And they want to make sure that they truly go back to who the Republicans used to be. Small government, less taxes, less spending, free market, home rule. None of that exists. Ron DeSantis wants to talk about the free state of Florida. I don't feel so free when I have to make some decisions about what's best for my body. I know that when we're seeing what's happening in our schools, that's not freedom. That's oppression. That is becoming a dictator. He's become an authoritarian. I said it for the first time at the end of legislative session in 2020. Everybody thought I was crazy to be you're calling the governor of the state of Florida a dictator? Yes, I am. Yes, I am. And unfortunately, every single day he's living up to that title. And now he wants to take it to Washington, D.C. So let's prove him wrong. Let's beat him. Let's beat him, because that not only saves the state of Florida, but it saves the country. So I am asking for your support. I am asking for your vote. I promise you, I will not let you down. I will work every single day to lift people up, not to divide our state, to make sure that we are lowering your cost of living while also increasing our standards of that life. So thank you so much for what you all do. I know that you are in a very red area, but every vote matters, and making sure that we are talking to everybody, because that's going to make the difference in this election.
Thank you so much, Nikki. Very good. I want to thank you very much for being there for us when the Piney Point disaster happened and coming down here. And I want to thank you for running. It's so important that you're running. I wanted to see if we can open a little bit for questions. I know you're on a schedule, but you made your speech powerful and short. So can we go ahead and ask some questions?
We'll do a shout, but I also want to do a shout out. I just saw Jessica's on here too, the president of the Environmental Caucus for Sarasota. And as you may or may not seen, but on Sunday night, I received the endorsement from the Democratic Environmental Caucus. So thank you, Jessica.
Our pleasure. And we're here to help you win. Thanks for coming to this. And we want a lady governor. We want you. We love you. And I say you've got a lot of chutzpah for doing this. Boy, hats off.
Thank you, Jessica. So Nikki, here goes my question. As a Latina and having other Latinos in my life around here in Florida, a big issue is driver's license. We here in this call, most of us are very fortunate to be able to have documentation and have driver's license. But this is a big reality of not only Latinos, all immigrants, but as we know in Florida, we have a lot of Latinos. And there's a lot of people suffering big time because that's when the encounter with the police happens, and a lot of people get into a cycle of unending fines, and it's absurd what happens. And on the other hand, in 16 states and the District of Columbia, they have enacted laws to allow unauthorized immigrants to obtain driver's licenses. So some states like California, Colorado, but not just there, Hawaii, Illinois, Maryland, Nevada, New Jersey, New Mexico, the list is long. So they issue a license if an applicant provides certain documentation that can be a foreign birth certificate, a foreign passport, or a consular card, and evidence that the person is currently living in the state. So in Florida would be a big relief for many Latinos if they could have the right to be lawful, to have a driver's license. How could you do, what could you do as a governor to avoid Latinos having to suffer the lack of the rights to a driver's license?
Yes, I can do a lot. One, executive order. The Department of Highway and Motor Vehicles falls underneath the cabinet, so all of us, but it is something that I can do an executive order allowing. And I've said that very vocally and around the clock, because I've heard the same stories. I did a roundtable in Opopka a couple months back with a lot of migrant farm workers, because I'm on Commissioner of Agriculture. And we know that there's 2 million workforce that are here in the state of Florida and 1 million are undocumented. And hearing the heartbreaking stories of so many individuals saying, we've got a backup plan if my mom doesn't come home that day. We've got a backup plan if I have to leave the house and have to drive. What happens if I get pulled over? What are the things that I say and making sure that I'm, protecting my family? And nobody should have to live like that. One, we need national immigration reform. I mean, that is something I've testified in front of Congress on. I've been on lots of panels about comprehensive immigration reform. But here in the state of Florida, what the Republicans have been doing for the last few years, sanctuary cities to, even going a step further, going after even the religious institutions who safe harbor children, like my God, and really making it unsafe for those that are coming here to the state of Florida, working here, living here. And the same thing I did during the vaccines. When I was hearing that we were not able to get vaccines into some of our migrant population communities in our workforce, I had to go around the governor to get vaccines in some of these communities. And then I was getting the notification that they need to get proof of ID. And I had to make a personal phone call to the head of whoever was running that vaccine location. I said, no, if they are living here in the state of Florida, they are working here in the state of Florida, and they want a vaccine, they get a vaccine. I don't really care about documentation. Get the vaccines, get the shots in their arms. And that's what's going to take, being able to stand up and realize that there's a human component to this. And if we aren't understanding what is happening and making sure that our streets are safe, because there's also an economic part of this. You want people to have a driver's license. You want people to have gone through driving courses. You want people to have insurance on those cars. And if we aren't doing all of these steps, not only is it inhumane of what we're doing to the individual, but the danger that could potentially happen on the back end if there's car accidents or if there's anything else that goes along. So I can do an executive order saying that anybody who lives here in the state of Florida can have access to, whether it's a state ID or a driver's license.
So it can be done via that. You don't need the state legislature to vote on that.
They can certainly try to sue me. Bring it.
I see. So it would be a temporary measure in a certain way because it's just during one governorship. Or
Maybe.
else we get the legislature to enact a law like these other 16 states have. Is that how it works?
Yeah, so I'd have to go back to see if it's actually in statute that it says they're not entitled to a driver's license, or if that is just a rule. Rules are a lot easier to change. And so regardless, by getting an executive order from the governor will obviously start the ball rolling on some of those aspects.
Thank you.
Hola.
Hola.
Hola. I no question. I just wanted to say that I admire your working in such an environment and with a leader with such negative attitudes towards so much. And I see you maybe on a lone position without support. I would like you to know that many of us think and send you that support as you work through these dry
Thank you.
periods of time. Continue going, please, for all of us.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks, Jose.
Thank you for coming. I'm sorry. I don't know if you can hear me good, but this is the first time that I'm sure it's everybody's warm in mind in the state of Florida. What can you do about abortions?
Mhm. Yes. Look.
And regarding the vaccine, and they still ain't taking no ID. They still don't give you a shot with that ID anywhere you go.
Okay. Well, let me know. Let's talk offline, and I'm going to send you my. I'm put in the chat. It's my official side because that's where I can do the most good on this issue. So that is the NHF. That's my initials at fdax.gov. So send me some information if you're seeing that there's specific areas that I will try to do my best to work around those. Abortion. This is obviously personal as a female, but also we know who's going to be hurt the most, and that's in our Black and Brown communities that already have such a gap in healthcare coverage and such a gap in access to healthcare, and potentially may not have the same resources to go get a safe abortion. And we know that because of the 15-week abortion ban, that I have no doubt that this Supreme Court is unfortunately going to uphold and is going to get rid of the right to privacy that's in the Florida Constitution. So there's a couple of things. Day one, I do an executive order, a state of emergency on women's healthcare. This gives me the opportunity to say I am not allowing any resources sent down by the state government to our state prosecutors so they can't go after either women or doctors who are potentially providing safe abortions after that 15-week. 2, you will have the complete weight of the governor's office behind a constitutional amendment to expand that right to privacy. That means I will help raise dollars to get the signatures. I will make sure that we've got legal teams that are drafting the amendment. I will do PSAs and try to promote the signing of the signatures. We'll make sure that we are helping to get the ballot initiative on in the 2024. Third is working with the legislature. We're going to have to go back. And I know that unfortunately, there's going to be empirical data that's going to happen from now until even then, where you're going to hear those stories of women getting botched abortions and unfortunately women having to go across other state lines, or you're going to hear those stories of the real time of what is happening in our state and going back to the legislature and say, this is not okay. And I always say too, that when you cut off the head of a snake, the snake dies. When you cut off Ron DeSantis, the rest of the legislature goes back to just being conservative. I'll leave the adjectives alone, but just being generally conservative. And so that way we can come in and we can try to work through making these changes on the ground. And so those are kind of some of the original first steps. And the other thing that's going to be really important is that if in fact that decision has not come down yet on the 15-week abortion ban, or that there is still cases that are pending, the governor's office can decide which side of the lawsuit they want to be part of. That even though if they've been sued with the rest of the legislature and the attorney general's office, because I did this as commissioner, I want to be on the side of the plaintiffs. And so making sure that the governor's office is not defending the case, but but helping to prosecute the case. And so there's a lot of things that are going to be in our power. I am laser focused on this issue. I've heard the stories, and for any of the women that are on this phone, on this call, that were here fighting for Roe v. Wade back 50 years ago, thank you. I stand on your shoulders. But now it's my time to take the baton and to make sure that I'm taking this seriously and making sure I'm protecting the women that are coming after me.
Thank you very much.
Well, my question is more on the state of Florida, and that is the insurance, homeowners insurance. We are going to have a big problem next year with homeowners insurance, the way that they're going up, up, and up. And people are buying like crazy here, and they're going to have these ridiculous insurance bills that they cannot afford.
Yep.
So I've been advocating insurance from this state, and I know a lot of people don't like it. They complain, they say, no, we have to have the insurance companies. You're going to bust the bank or whatever. But this is not going to happen because people are going to simply stop paying insurance if they can do it.
Yep. The insurance industry is a problem. Even today I saw that there is I don't remember how many, but a whole bunch of people that were kicked out of Citizens, which is the insurance of last resort. It shouldn't be the insurance of only resort, but even at that level, that people were actually taken off the Citizens policies. And so what's happened here is that we don't have a balance. And I'll kind of give you inside bubble stuff, is that every legislative session, there's an insurance bill. And the insurance companies on one side, the trial bar on the other, and they sit and they fight, and nothing gets accomplished. So what we need to be doing is creating a task force that doesn't have either of them on this task force. And you bring experts from the industry, actuarial members that talk about what are actually happening on the ground when it comes to insurance. And then you have a comprehensive plan that the legislature buys in on, regardless of who's lobbying the bill. It comes from the governor's office. This is what is going to fix the insurance market. At the end of the day, what we need to be doing is figuring out a way to bring more insurance companies into the state of Florida, because that creates competition. And when you have competition, that reduces the premiums, and it makes sure that we're holding everybody accountable. So this is something that from my time being a government consultant, I saw the food fight. I saw that when it comes to trying to get things accomplished, you can't do it during session. During session, lobbyists are walking around and people are coming up. No one's truly really focused on their issues, and everything becomes a hodgepodge and everything kind of gets thrown against the wall. You got to make sure you got a plan before you get into legislative session. And that means doing the hard work beforehand, making sure that everybody is at the table to come up with real concrete answers. And if the trial bar and the insurance lobbyists are unhappy, that means we did something right.
Let me say something, Nikki. This is Maria Roballo. And whatever is going to happen, I hope the best for you. But when you're in there in a beautiful place, please keep working for the Latino community. We need people like you to remember that we need there are a lot of issues in the Latino community that we need your support.
Without a doubt, Maria. Like I said, when I first started this campaign, we did the Nikki Escucha tour, and we traveled the state. I've got an entire book that I took notes in. And my entire platform was based on what I was hearing, what I was listening to. And so those are where I got my ideas from, is what was happening on the ground and trying to find solutions to it. I created the first ever Latin American Advisory Council that has ever happened in a statewide election, to make sure that there was people that were constantly circling around me, telling me what was going on the ground, telling me what was happening in the Hispanic community, and making sure that they have complete access to me all the time. That council doesn't just exist for the campaign. It's going to continue going through the transition, because we're going to win, and that it's going to make sure that after we win, that they're still there to help me govern. Look, we know that we've had 28 straight years of one-party control of our state. And so when we get in there, there's going to have to be a complete gutting of the executive branch, of positions, of individuals. And so we're going to need everybody's input of positions to be filled and who to be appointing them, and to make sure that we're constantly surrounded by people that've got their ears to the ground. Too many times people get elected, they go up to Tallahassee and they forget how they got there. I do not forget how I got here. Every single day, I know that I got here because, and no one knew who I was in 2018. No one knew who I was. And so I know that I got here because the work of so many people for the top of the ticket, whether it was for Senator Nelson or for Andrew, that everybody worked around the clock to get them in. And I reaped, unfortunately, the benefits of that. Fortunately and unfortunately, but obviously with them losing. But I know that I didn't get here alone. And I never forgot that. Made sure that one of the first positions that I created inside the Department of Agriculture was an inclusion and diversity position, because I understood what was at stake, and to make sure that people inside of the department started to look like and reflected that of the population. So I can guarantee you, I am not going to forget you. I am certainly going to make sure that we have true representation in Tallahassee, and then we start creating policies that are going to help our Hispanic community. That's generational wealth. That's talking about our children that are in the ESL classes and can't get out. Making sure that we've got an education system that works for everybody, that we're looking at ways to help our small businesses who want to open up new businesses, that there's people around the state to help with those loan writing, applications, the grants, applications for even state dollars. There's such a disconnect of the money that comes out of Tallahassee and where it needs to go helping the people.
Yes, and you mentioned school. School is a big issue that we're having nowadays, related a lot to the state governor and legislature stepping over what should be like local decisions. And so this is something that really needs to change in Florida, big time.
Big time. Home rule has to happen. Every community is different. What the governor tried to do to hurt our school boards. I mean, you guys were even in a red area. Your school board made a really tough decision, but and then the governor threatened to withhold money. And I had to call the White House and say, we need help down here. I need backup. And President Biden created backup. But that's what's going to take, making sure that our local governments, our school boards can do what's right for their communities. They know what's best, not people in Tallahassee.
Yes, the Department of Education is doing terrible things in Tallahassee, allowing a lot of privatization in the voucher program. So what do you think could be done in regards to that?
Schools of choice, vouchers, they're not going anywhere. And some people are benefiting, some kids are benefiting, but the problem is this. What we've done is this little shell game of money and resources that we all had voted for the lottery. The lottery was supposed to enhance the amount of money that goes into public education. I'm a proud product of our public education system. In fact, I graduated from Miami Palmetto Senior High School, which is actually where our newest of our Supreme Court justices, Ketanji Brown Jackson, came from. So I wear that with a very extra smile on my face. And we have to make sure that we're increasing the per pupil funding. Back in 2006, it was roughly $6,400. Now it's at $6,900. It should be over $10,000 with just inflation, not even talking about inflation today, but just inflation in general. So my commitment for our public education system is to double the per pupil funding during the first 4 years of my administration. That way we are funding our teachers who are making pennies on the dollar of what they should be making. We need to make sure that we are building infrastructure, that we are having our kids being in classrooms that aren't falling apart, books that aren't falling apart, that we've got more wraparound services, whether it is in not just STEM, what's happening in our liberal arts programs, what's happening in our after school programs, our arts, making sure there's money for our bus drivers and to the incredible men and women that are working in our school nutrition programs that went every single day to make sure that our kids were still fed during the pandemic and put their own personal lives at risk. They are not even getting the money that they need. So the education system, we are funding it right now 49th in the nation. Yet we are the third largest GDP in the country. what does that tell us where our priorities are? It's not the future of our state. And so we are going to be doing a deep dive into the budget and making sure that the resources are allocated to where the priorities need to be for the state.
That's awesome. That calls for and ask for people to unmute and thank Commissioner Nikki Fried and
Thank you very
candidate for
much.
governor for
Been a
being
pleasure listening
here.
to you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Keep
everyone.
on going. Keep on
Platform,
going.
great
We're not
thoughts.
giving up. We don't back down here.
No, don't back down.
Don't back down.